For centuries, craftsmen and craftswomen all over the United States have proudly created quality products that ultimately brandish the iconic phrase, Made in America. As long as I can remember, I've been fascinated with American artistry. It's something I pay close attention to when buying products, and it's something that has become more important to me over the years. Searching for these American-made crafts has become more than a hobby for me. It's become my obsession. What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going from bar to brewery, and I'm really excited to speak to my next guest. This individual is disrupting an otherwise saturated industry, and I cannot wait to discuss what it takes to make non-alcoholic craft brew. So here we go, and enjoy the ride. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's episode of American Ride. Today we are at an undisclosed location, and I'm excited because we're going to be talking about beer, craft beer, but not just any kind of beer, non-alcoholic beer. It's going to be a little cold in there, so I got my little jacket, and let's go check it out. So welcome, everyone. I'm really excited. In front of me we have Phil Brandis, owner of Bravus Brewing Company. So Phil, you just got back from Vegas, I want to say?
Denver, actually.
Denver,
JBF, yep.
Okay, so Denver, you won 2 awards.
Yep.
For craft beer. But not just any kind of craft beer. Why don't you tell them what kind of craft beer?
Non-alcoholic craft beer.
There you go.
Crazy, right?
How did you get into non-alcoholic craft beer?
Yeah, it's a funny story. You know, I had a great friend of mine, and he was a home brewer, and he loved craft beer. I mean, he was brewing beer 20 years ago, and I used to go over to his house, and there'd be stuff bubbling away, and you know, and that smell of fermentation, you can't forget it, right? And I was like, you know, what are you doing? You'll never make anything as good as a Coors Light. You know, of course, that was kind of before craft beer was a thing, and now like drinking my word, eating my words, right? But you know, you got to a point where, you know, all the imperials and doubles and triples, you know, stouts and IPAs came out, and he started indulging a bit too much. And his wife said, you know, gave him that ultimatum. It's like, it's either me or the beer, which is, for a guy, is pretty, you know, it's a hard choice, right?
Absolutely.
No, but he chose wisely, and chose his wife and his family, and gave up drinking. And you know, unfortunately, switched the O'Douls and the Sharps and the rest, and he was so embarrassed by an O'Doul's, he would actually turn the bottle around every time he drank it, just so you wouldn't see the big green label.
I would do the same. I would either peel off the label, or I'd ask for a glass, pour it in a glass.
Right. Yeah, and I'll never forget. We went on this this trip to Cabo, and he'd called up the resort and said, "Hey, do you guys have any non-alcoholic beer?" And they hung up on him. You know, that doesn't exist in Cabo, right? So, you know, I met him there, and he comes rolling in with 2 big suitcases, and boy, you pack pretty heavy for a 3-day trip. And he goes, no, check this out, and unzips them, and 12 cases of Sharps bottles and 12 cases of O'Doul's bottles, and he paid more on in Southwest baggage fees than he did for the beer. And so I go, wow, that's crazy. He actually brought all this beer, and he had to have it, and let me try one. And took a sip of one of them and spit it out. I go, that's not even beer, not even close. I go, are you? I just felt bad for the guy, you know? I go, this is all you have? You don't have like your craft beer? You don't have an IPA? Or I didn't know much about it at the time. You don't have a stout? No, man, this is all I have. And I just felt really bad for him. I go, tell you what, you teach me how to homebrew. How hard can it be? I'll get you a good tasting non-alcoholic IPA. And of course, 6 or 7 months later, dove into the research, and I knew that I didn't want to approach it from how O'Doul's and Sharps and all the other grocery store lagers, approach it. And I didn't want to vacuum distill. I wanted to approach it right from the science, from the yeast, from the brewing process, really make it like a craft beer. And
how long ago was this, if I may ask?
The idea was started so our trip was in 2014. Okay. That's when I started, and then really started the company around 2015, and started building a little brewery in my garage. And again, he taught me how to homebrew, and dove into the research at that point, and brewed a lot of beer. Most of it was terrible. Ended up pouring it out, unfortunately. But one day I finally just hit it. I made a pretty amazing IPA, and he tried it and loved it. And of course, by that time, I'd spent so much money and so much time. My wife, who's a CPA, said, "This is not a hobby anymore. You got to start a company to write it off at least." So we did. We got a little space in Santa Ana and got a couple of tanks and went for it. So and then here we are, years later, much bigger facilities, and still can't make enough of it. I mean, it's a trip. Even back then, we brewed up a case or two and sold to a local place, and actually the Cliff in Laguna. And that same night, the guy says, "We need more." I go, "What'd you do? Did you drop the first case or something?" He's like, "No, we had some people come in and they went through the whole thing. I mean, each of them drank like 6 bottles, in one sitting." So
there you go.
And, so anyway, yeah, we just, to this day, it's been just, I can't keep up with the demand for it. So
That's a good problem.
It is and it isn't. I mean, sometimes, I run out of a beer, I have to walk in the back of a Bevmo like this, and I deliver, and then I turn it around and go in the front and buy it back and, deliver to another, store. So, it is and it isn't. But in the days of Amazon, people want their products, the next day, right? But beer takes a while,
It does. So talk to me about the process.
Yep.
I was reading that it started with the yeast for you.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique and proprietary process that we developed. I can't talk too much about it, but we don't distill it. That just burns off all the good stuff. We don't filter, reverse osmosis, because that filters out all the good stuff. We kind of approach it from more of a craft beer method. That it's just, we have a real super great yeast that we developed, and it's just mellow. It makes a craft beer that just has all the qualities of craft beer without having to resort to distillation and reverse osmosis. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my experience the first time that I drank your beer was about 3 weeks ago, at Hendrikx in San Clemente. Mm-hmm. And I was skeptical.
Right.
I looked at the waitress, an IPA? Sure, okay, I'll try it. And I still have the story, the Instagram story, right. And the genuine shock and reaction. I from what I remember, because I'm 6 years sober now, and from what I remember, when I used to drink an IPA, Lagunitas IPA was kind of one of my go-tos. It had that hoppiness, that bit. I was in shock.
Right.
How do you do that?
It's all about, I guess, balance, right? For a lot of people, alcohol is a component of, but it's not everything with a craft beer. Craft beer, there's not just the product itself, but go into a restaurant, inclusion, and really that's what Bravus is about. Brave, being courageous, not feeling awkward because you're out with your buddies or your friends and someone's ordering a beer, you're like, I'll have an iced tea or a soda, and everyone kind of looks at you funny, and it's kind of a sad thing in a way, but again, the embarrassment, going back to my friend. We find a good balance between the malt and the hops, and we pick styles where you're not really noticing the alcohol. So like a lager would be kind of difficult because there's not much there, right? Mm-hmm. But in the craft beer, there's so many great flavors you can add and styles, and it's just not something you're going to miss or even taste. I mean, of course, you get to like a double or triple, IPA or stout, you're gonna miss that burn, but it's so much more than just alcohol in it. So,
absolutely, I 100% agree. Now, how many different types of craft beer does Bravus have? Yeah,
so we have 5 now. We had 3 core beers for a long time. We had our IPA, the stout, and the amber ale. And I decided, hey, we need something for summer, and so came up with 2 new styles, which was a white ale, kind of like a Shock Top or Blue Moon or an Einstock, and then a Goza, a raspberry Goza. And people flipped out on the Goza. It was just this amazing raspberries, tartness, sweet. Not super sour, because a lot of people don't really like super sour beers, but I thought that for sure was going to win it at JBF, but they prefer sour beers. But we make ours super crushable, easy to drink, and that one is, we're brewing it again actually, and so we're releasing it again. So it's going to be, those 2 are going to be our core beers now. So
that's awesome.
So 5, and we have this crazy non-alcoholic barrel-aged bourbon stout, right? Around the holidays, all the big companies release their boozy barrel-aged stout. I want to do the same thing. So last year, this crazy idea, worked on this process to actually barrel-age a beer without imparting the usual alcohol that barrels do, because barrels can impart like 3%, 4% ABV. So we're always trying to push the envelope, and so we did it, and I hand bottled like, I don't know, something like 40 cases and hand labeled them and released them online, and it went in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
You know, so people are like, wow, that's kind of, and we ended up winning a bronze medal for it at the show. So we're always going to try to push the boundaries with what, you know, because people don't expect that.
No,
know?
they don't.
So
I think what I admire about you is you're a disruptor in a saturated industry,
Right.
saturated market, and it's hard to find people that are willing to take that leap and that risk.
I'm not a marketing guy or a sales guy. I look at a competitive field and I go, I can't compete with this. You know, I want to do something different. So I look for needs, and it appeared my buddy was a good influence, and it appeared that he needed a good craft beer that was non-alcoholic. And so I said, I'll give
Can
it
we
a
say
try.
your friend's name?
No, I don't want to mention
Okay.
it, but
Well, we'll call him.
Anonymity.
Yeah, we'll call him Steve.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Thank you, Steve, for inspiring me, because I can speak to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wanted to get into it. I mean, at the same time, my brother actually, he's in the industry, and he dragged me to I think it was a Pliny the Younger release at Hollingshead Deli over in Orange, and all these people were lining up for hours and hours just to get one sip of this, you know, coveted IPA. It was a triple IPA.
Oh wow!
4 hours out in the sun, and nothing to eat, and you know, I got up to the front of the line, took a sip, and I got drunk instantly. Like, I didn't remember the beer, how good it was, but what I did remember was that there are all these people that wanted craft beer and good quality craft beer. So that, between my buddy and this sort of awareness that there's something here in the craft beer industry, it's kind of how I got started in it. But again, I didn't want to compete. I mean, you walk into like a Whole Foods or something, and you just see a sea of labels, and it's almost become, it is to the point where you just, which has the best label? Yeah. I'll get that one, you know. And so
it's become aesthetic or reputation.
Yeah. And I think the industry itself is it's basically, you know, who's got the craziest beer, what are they putting in. I saw one the other day with cream cheese powder, Teddy Grahams or something, and like peanut butter. It's just, how crazy can you get? You know, yeah. So
interesting.
Maybe we'll get there with the non-alcoholic.
That's like burgers.
Yeah.
People making burgers with peanut butter jelly. They're pretty good though.
They are good. Yeah.
So, talk to me about your background, because brewing wasn't.
No. Yeah, I was I was a computer geek. I was a software developer, and all my life. I mean, I got my first computer when I was 5, and you know, loved just sitting there. But you know, I got to a point where it was kind of killing me, and I'd sit there all day in front of my computer and just, you know, this close to the monitor, and just, you know, my back was going out, and very antisocial. And when I had my daughter, and you know, I gotta get into a more social field. But it actually has helped. People don't think, you know, programming and making beer the same, but in reality, it's you know, anyone can brew a beer, but to brew that same beer over and over, there's a lot of data. I mean, temperature, fermentation, gravity, and even ingredients, the ratios, and how do you scale into a tank? It's not very linear, going from a 30-barrel tank to a 90-barrel tank. And so it's come in pretty handy, just that background. And again, a lot of data. We're always taking notes, and we have technology that kind of monitors the beer to kind of see where it's at. And so I'm thankful I have that. But yeah, totally different.
Yeah,
and much more social.
Yeah, I think you would have to.
Yes, right.
Especially getting into beers.
Yep.
What's next for Bravus?
Just expansion. You know, we are acquiring new facilities and trying to make more and more, and really getting a wide distribution. Now, we do a lot of e-commerce now, but beer's not the best thing to ship. It's heavy, and it's big, and it's, you know, susceptible to temperature, whether it's hot during the summer or freezing because we don't have alcohol to protect it during the winter. And so we do a lot of e-commerce, but no one wants to pay that much for shipping. And so eventually we'll get into formal distribution. We'll get into every store, so you can just go down to your local, you know, whatever, grocery store and pick it up and not have to pay for shipping, and have great quality that way. So just making more. We have some other products in the pipeline we can't talk about, but we're definitely, I mean, we're fully invested in the non-alcoholic space, and we're going to make a big dent, I hope. So we'll see.
I think you are. Talk to me about the awards and how special that was.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy moment. someone asked me, did you expect to win an award? And I go, well, the thing is with award ceremonies, people don't realize, again, you make a good beer, but you have to actually get it to the to the facility and to where they're judging it in one piece. And packaging is so key. People don't realize how much it takes to package a beer. To get all the oxygen out and make sure the seams are. And so we made great beer and we sent it off, but wasn't going to make it in one piece. And I think it did. But I was sitting there with some friends, and they announced the category, and everyone's kind of like bated breath. And of course, everyone chuckles when they say non-alcoholic. The whole crowd sort of was like giggling, right?
Yeah.
And so they mentioned the bronze medal first, bronze, silver, gold, and it was our barrel-aged stout, and everyone started kind of laughing, non-alcoholic barrel-aged, so they were laughing, and then it kind of sort of went into this like kind of a, because they announced us again for the silver medal for our oatmeal stout. So there's this kind of a high hum, got higher, and then we didn't win the gold, unfortunately, and then everyone's like, ooh, so, but I was still pretty happy.
Yeah, but that's
next year, right? We'll sweep it next year. But it was
2
great.
out of the 5 beers that you craft.
Right.
That's
right. Yeah. So it was cool. Every brewer came up to our booth after. How do you do it? Of course, we're like, can't tell you.
Can't tell you.
They were interested, but it was neat. Not just for us, obviously, but for the NA craft beer category. Got some love finally by the people that for the most part really don't understand it, or you don't drink or you don't brew, when you're brewing just alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic beer is kind of the black sheep of the industry, right?
Absolutely.
Brewers don't understand, they kind of laugh at it. Even, we've got a lot of, even people who are big drinkers, just, they don't like us, like, what's the point? Or, they don't understand it. Yeah. Listen, some people can't drink or don't want to drink, and, so I'm happy that for the awards, kind of like, bring it into the spotlight a bit.
I think it solidifies you as a contender in the game.
I think so, yeah. I mean, there aren't a ton of competitors, but there are a few, and it does validate the way that we're making beer and that we can. Of course, it's hard, there's only one category for all these different styles, unlike 100 styles or categories for the rest of the beer, right? So there our stouts competing against someone else's whatever IPA or IPA is competing against our Goza. It's like, how do you choose between those? And so I guess what they did was whoever was closest to style. But we don't really brew to style necessarily. We brew to what our customers want, and that might differ. Again, for the Goza, strictly sour, but we make ours a little bit sweeter, a little bit more approachable, with more raspberries in it. And so, anyway, awards are nice, but
yeah. But I think that the product speaks for itself.
Thank
and
you.
Just I know that I'll speak for myself, but I will say in confidence I think I could speak for those non-alcoholic drinkers, or sorry, the non-drinkers, that what you're doing, it does mean something. Because I, for one, I socialize quite a bit, just for the different work that I do outside of American Ride. And it's hard to ask for, do you have a mocktail? Like, it's always an afterthought.
Right.
Okay, if you don't have any, do you have club soda or some sort of juice? Maybe throw a sprig of mint in there.
Right.
Trying to get creative. Do you have a non-alcoholic beer? No, I'm sorry. So what you're doing, trust me,
I appreciate that. Yeah, we actually get, to that point, we get a lot of fan mail. And some of them are pretty intense, we had a veteran suffered from PTSD, and when he drank, he became just not a good person. And he found our beer, and he describes the scene where he's, sitting on the back porch and drinking a Bravus, watching his granddaughter swing, and he can now enjoy his time. He's at peace, and he's like, "You've changed my life." And I go, "That's pretty heavy," but at the same time, we get quite a few of those very heartfelt emails like that. Some are comical. Some, I remember one woman said, if our beer gets any better, she wants to marry it. So, but that's okay. I don't know if that works.
People are marrying trees.
You're right, that's true.
Other things. Hey.
Right, I'm not going to discriminate, but
exactly, no discrimination.
But yeah, I think I could never become like a doctor. I'm just too squeamish with blood. But I think I'm happy to have created Bravus and leaving a mark and doing something, I guess, that benefits people. That part I never expected, but feels the best out of the whole thing. Yeah.
I bet. Now, Bravus, you mentioned earlier on Brave.
Yeah.
Is that what when you were thinking of the name?
Yeah, just kind of courageous, brave, inclusive, strong. I don't like to put meanings to words and stuff, and I think that's what kind of differentiates our beers. That it's just a beer for whatever reason you have to drink it. We're here, like, drink it. But yeah, it's I guess it kind of harks back to my friend and how just alienated he felt and embarrassed he was. So Bravus, kind of feels strong,
there you
courageous.
Go.
Yeah,
I dig it. Shall we try some?
Let's try some.
Let's try some. All right.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Martell, you got to try this, man. It tastes like a beer, and it is a beer. It just doesn't have the alcohol. I love the fact that you said the beer doesn't always have to be about the alcohol, and that's so true. I think that people get this idea that they need to loosen up, Yeah,
and that's really more than just hanging out with your friends or family and sitting around a table just like we are and swapping stories. And I'll tell you what, though, it's kind of funny. Some people, it feels so real to them. Some of them feel like, I kind of feel something, and I don't know if it's the hops or it's just kind of a placebo effect, but it's just a great experience.
Absolutely.
Alcohol or not, so.
But no, hey, you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Continue the great work. I'm a fan for sure, and anything that we can do here at American Ride to get the word out.
Appreciate that.
Plus, it keeps us riders safe.
There you go.
So if we need to get it at more of the biker bars.
There you go.
That's the next one right there.
All right, done.
Saving lives, keeping our riders safe. But yeah, here's to everybody. And to Steve, Anonymous.
Steve, right.
Yeah.
Cheers.
So there you have it. I want to thank every one of you for joining me in this episode of American Ride with Phil Brandis of Bravus Brewing Company. I hope you learned something about this particular craft as I have. And until the next American Ride.